I'm the kind of person who, with something like a psychedelic experience, I like to, exercise that suspension of judgment I mentioned, that epoch, I kind of
Yeah.
want to say, look, I'm not necessarily convinced it means what you think it means, right? But
Mm,
like, I'm
mm,
certainly willing to entertain the idea that it means something and that
mm,
it has revealed something. Now, the thing is, psychedelics have a tendency primarily to reveal to us the workings of our own mind, right?
mm.
Because there's a way in which your higher order concepts and ways of making sense of the world kind of fall away, and then what you experience is like, in some sense, like the metaphors that are most primitive, that make the most sense to you. You're like grasping, scrabbling to try to make
Mm.
sense, and you just make sense as best you can. And so
Yeah, yeah,
a lot of people interpret that as like, this is a
yeah.
revelation of reality.
I
I
had
I
some,
would
had
be.
some, yeah, I had
Mhm,
some really interesting thoughts on that. There's kind of, the assertion of agency within these
mhm.
psychedelic spaces, and there's the things approaching them and so on. I mean, for me, that could easily be explained by reference
It
to the
could,
fact
it could, but and
that,
this is the really
because this is
interesting
what
thing
we
is,
expect, isn't it? We expect in our general tactical existence, we're presented with agents. We have to negotiate with agents, right? So
yes,
we're
yeah,
just
yeah, exactly,
it's kind of, there's a certain inevitability about that. So
yeah,
that's not,
and
and seeing consistent looking agents as well isn't really good enough either, because again, these are
yeah,
just projections of certain archetypal,
yep,
serpent-like
of course,
creatures.
yeah,
We're going to see insects, we're going to see serpents, because
yep,
that's what humans have been seeing for millions,
yeah,
hundreds of thousands of years, right? So
yeah,
yeah, so I'm very suspicious of those sorts of experiences
yeah,
being offered up as evidence of
yes. So
other
I'm,
intelligence.
like I said,
But
I'm
there is some creepy stuff going on in there,
so
So
what I would say is, I'm perfectly ready to believe that there's something about reality that's being revealed. I just
mm,
don't necessarily agree with the interpretation that's often
mm,
attached to that experience by the person who had it, because there's
yeah,
a
yeah,
tendency, I think, to you have the experience. The experience is really meaningful. The experience gets interpreted in a certain way, and then that interpretation to you is sacred. You know what I mean? It's like
mm,
it's like tied to the meaning of the experience. If someone tries to question it, it's almost like they're invalidating the experience, and so there's difficulties there.